All right, we're going. Hello there, fellow human beings. Just wanted to come at you with another sort of common pitfall that people fall into. I chat with people, I hear the way they describe things, and I go, oh, that's not going to work out for you. So here's one of them, which is what I like to call the intention trap. The idea that our intentions are significant and important and should be part of how we assess how we interact with our fellow human beings and with the world. The problem there is that your intentions are private. So intentions loom large in our understanding of the motivations of our behavior, but they are only inside here. So nobody else in the world has any access to that information, whereas the effects of our behaviors, of our actions, are public. We make some change in the world, and everybody can see that change. So no one else in the world really has a good reason to care about what you intended. Now, your close friends, your family, your loved ones, maybe they do. Maybe they're a little more generous than most people in their assessment of your behavior, but for the overwhelming bulk of humanity, they don't care what your intention was because they have no access to that information. And they also have very little reason to credit your account of your intentions, because the world is full of bad actors who are claiming good intent. You know, people doing just awful things, and oh, I didn't mean for that to happen. It's like, really, Steve? Because you didn't mean for the last 100 things that you did that were totally jerkish to happen, and yet this keeps happening, right? So, professing a good intent when you've done something that has created some concrete harm that everybody can see, it's not really gonna win people over. So if your self-assessment of your behavior is rooted in what you intended when you perform that behavior, you're really setting yourself up for a mismatch between how you view yourself and how other people view you. And that mismatch can be a real opportunity to be unhappy with things. So when evidence is produced that people view you in a light that you do not view yourself, there is a very strong impulse to feel like frustration, resentment, anger, all sorts of unpleasant experiences can unfold from the arising of that mismatch. And so you may as well accept the way the universe works, that nobody else has any way of knowing what your intentions are, and take intentions out of the calculation, so that when you're assessing what have I done in the world, you're assessing it based on the effects, the consequences of your actions, rather than what you desired when you performed the action. And that's difficult because, like I said, intentions loom very large, right? The entire cognitive process leading up to a behavior is founded in intentions. I desire some consequence in the world. I take some action that, to the best of my understanding, should lead to that consequence, and then either it happens or it doesn't happen. But if we stop with, I intended the right thing, that also doesn't get us into the feedback loop that's going to make us more skillful in affecting the changes in the world that we actually want to see. So if I try to make some effect and it doesn't work out, and then I go, oh, well, but I wanted a good thing, there's a real temptation to stop right there in sort of the post-mortem analysis of whatever the heck it is I'm up to. And that cuts us off from the opportunity for a tremendous amount of learning, because when I try to do something and I fail, that's the door opening. That's the universe saying, hey, I got some good information for you about how all this works. So if we train ourselves to go, I'm not concerned with what I intended, what actually happened, what was the effect, then we're opening ourselves up to receiving that information about how this all works and becoming more skillful in creating the effects that we want in the world. So that's rad. An example of that for me that I've come up against a lot, because I have some folks who fall into this in my life, is communication, right? Because there's the message that we intend to convey, and then there's the message that our audience receives. And that's mediated by the things that we say. And too often people are content with saying something that they would interpret as their intended message. and they lose track of the fact that it actually doesn't matter how you perceive what you say. What matters is how your audience perceives what you say. That's what generates the effects in the world. So if your audience takes 3, 4, 5 passes to get to your intended message, if the most obvious interpretation to your audience of what you have said is something completely different from what you actually intended to convey, then that's a real problem, because there's a mismatch between what you desire and what's actually happening in the world. And if you are focused on, but this is what I meant, then you're going to miss the opportunity to refine your application of language so that you say things that reliably generate the intended message in your audience. So I have a buddy who struggled with this for years, and we would always get back to, he would say something, I knew him very well, so I would go, did you really mean to say this? And he would say, yeah, that's what I mean. I'd say, well, you just said the opposite of that. The words that came out of your mouth, interpreted by anybody who speaks English, the first interpretation that I come up with is the opposite of what you actually intended to convey. And you would go, but you knew what I was saying. You knew what I wanted to say. And it's like, well, yes, I love you, buddy. I'm willing to do the work, right? But most of the universe is not going to be willing to do the work. So it really matters that what you say actually produces the right message received, rather than being what you perceive to be the right message sent. So that's one of the many places where that can come about, but it's kind of a concrete example of that. I'm basically done here, and I really suck at ending things. This is a little bit of self-criticism here. So I'm just going to say all the normal like YouTube crap, like if you like the videos, you should like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, jump through a million hoops, I don't know. Because then YouTube will actually tell you when there are more videos. And that'd be cool. Also, Wholesome 2018. I keep throwing this out here because I hope that people are taking an opportunity to go, you know what? Actually, let's find the good things in the world. What takes care of me? I'm going to dial in on that for a year and then hopefully a lifetime. Other than that, that's it. Just keep on practicing. Keep being happy human beings. Cheers.